tonight's agenda. First of all, I hope that those joining via Zoom can hear me. I know Bill confirmed a little earlier that you could. I'm hoping that that's still the case. But first of all, my name is Fitz, and I'm the president of JSQCA. I've been the president now for, this will be my second year. So basically, I succeeded Tom when he opted to run for city council. He won, which is amazing. And so, yeah, so I've been now a member of JSQCA for 3 years, and very excited for, the possibilities that we have before us in 2026. With Tom now as our representative, we have a new administration, new possibilities, and I'm just so happy to see that there's so many members that decided to come in person. One thing that we're going to do slightly different this year are members-only meetings. This is something that's been done in the past, and this year we want to be a little bit more intentional about the benefit that your membership gives you. And one of those is access to our elected officials. In this case, Mayor Tollerman is going to be joining us roughly at 7:30. And so there will be more members-only meetings throughout the year. We don't anticipate all of them being members-only, but definitely some critical ones where we want to make sure that your voice is heard, that your questions get answered, and that that you're able to fully take advantage of the membership that we afford you, that your $25 affords you. So tonight is just one example. So I'm going to be making a few other announcements either after our presentation from Martin or after we wrap up from the mayor. But the mayor should be arriving at around 7:30. And so his team gave us ample notice that they were coming from another event. And so this is not like a last minute thing. We were told quite a while ago that was going to be the case. So tonight, we're going to start things off with something I don't think we've ever done in JSQCA. And it's something that we're calling for now a Did You Know segment. Maybe we'll call it something else. This is something that Martin had sort of surfaced a few months ago. And the idea here is, as the agenda allows, he's going to do short presentations about local history. Fun trivia that perhaps you knew, maybe you didn't. And the idea is that you walk away a little bit more informed about our community and some of the the uniqueness that exists here that you may or may not know. And so Martin is going to do his thing for roughly 15 or so minutes. Maybe he will entertain questions. That will tee us up for the mayor, and then we'll sort of go from there. And then for the Q&A, I'll most likely just ask one or two questions to kick things off, and then literally open it up to the floor. There's a mic over there, so you guys can just line yourself up. One thing I do request is please ask your question as directly as possible. The less intro, the more time that we're going to have to get to people's questions. So that's something that I ask you. And obviously just, keep things very respectful. He is the mayor, and we want to be thought partners with him, even when or if there are disagreements. So let's kick things off with Martin and his Did You Know series. And the focus is the 1918 Elk Lodge.
You probably have noticed, or I hope you've noticed, that on the northern side of Kennedy Boulevard, between Bicycle King United Methodist Church and the Mickey D's, you'll see in back of all the junkie stores this handsome building, this Beaux-Arts building that was built by William Neumann in 1918 for the Elks. The Elks were founded in 1868. So much of American clubdom is traceable back to the UK, Great Britain, and indeed the Elks were founded by an Englishman, a Tippler Englishman with a bunch of Tippler actors who were his associates here. He was a theater person. In fact, once upon a time, it was quite common for pretty much, as they put it in the literature, all respectable theater folk to be Elks. Obviously male theater folks. So that's the nice side of the not so nice side of the founding of the Elks is the connection with minstrelsy and the caricaturing of alleged, supposed Afro-American comic behavior, etc. Now, to look at the more positive side, which that's obviously not a positive side, the Elks got involved heavily with philanthropy, and their canons were charity, justice, brotherly love, and fraternity. And unlike, let's say, the Masons, where there's, as Roman Catholics would see it, where there's a religious dimension, which is why Roman Catholics even today are not supposed to be Mason because of the theistic tendencies and Masonry. The Elks had none of that. They were completely secular. They were very middle class in their origins. They were really supposed to serve the interests of an emerging, prosperous American middle class. How? By providing in these lodges, and there were hundreds of them once, good food, good housing, and entertainment. If you were a elk, you could go to, let's say, Waterbury, Connecticut. I'm familiar with that Elks Lodge, which is now senior citizen housing. You could stay there on the cheap, and you'd be in a place that was where the food was good and where you felt at home. And you had this in common, the elkdom in common. Now, the Elks started here in 1891. They started downtown like nearly everything. They were in Franklin Hall on Montgomery. They were in the Tabernacle on Henderson. They were on Grand Street where the prep is around there. They eventually moved up in a $500,000 building. That's the one that's still standing. Can't enter it from the front. Original entrance long gone. Got to go around to Magnolia Avenue because the original entrance was destroyed when they put the junkie stores in. So, but the building is still a hugely handsome Beaux-Arts building. So the purpose of the outfit, they did a lot of philanthropic work, but it was quite practical for the middle class people, the middle class men, because originally the exalted rulers, the whole hierarchy was male. You'd go anywhere and you could get that good housing, that good food, etc., that hospitality. Now, it's interesting, in 1891, when the Elks were founded here, who was the mayor of Jersey City? Orestes Cleveland. Why is that interesting? Well, Orestes Cleveland was a small town Protestant. He was a member of the Know Nothing Party in his youth, and meaning viciously, violently anti-Catholic and anti-immigrant. In 1918, when Frank Hague was mayor of Jersey City, because when they built the Elks Hall, Frank Hague was mayor. A little change. The mayor of Jersey City was a first-generation American, the son of immigrants, and very Catholic. So there's a certain social trajectory that's charted here with the Elks. Now there's no 211 anymore. There are no Elks in Jersey City anymore. They apparently left that building around 67. So they're not present here any longer. The place they moved to on Hunt Street and the Heights, that's also being converted into housing. There's apartments, 40 apartments in the old Elks Lodge. But we're lucky that we still have the architecture and the good memories, those memories which are good memories, we still have them. And so that's I told you 10 minutes. If you want more or people want to ask questions, I'm fine. But otherwise, I'm done. Because we said 10 minutes, right?
Yeah, I originally told you 10 minutes. I don't know if anyone has any questions for Martin while we wait for the mayor, but if so, we have the time.
Be around afterwards too.
Oh, we have one.
It's not they don't have a Kennedy Boulevard address anymore. I think the entrance is like 275
Magnolia.
Oh, okay. But that's like the back door of where the Elks was. Because the front door was very nice, if you see pictures of it. Very nice entrance. It wasn't at that where the Neumann, it was on Palisade Avenue. What part of that? Almost is gone now, except the but there's no longer.
Mine. Martin.
Yes.
It might be good if you actually answer the question from the podium so that the audience can benefit from the answer.
You were just saying? Well, the Hudson, the side of Kennedy Boulevard facing north, if you look up, you can tell which is the old Elks Lodge, 211. Because it's completely different architecturally than anything around. But that entrance is long gone. You have to go around the corner. I think the address is 275 Magnolia Avenue, where the 40 apartments and that probably are pretty nice with the brick walls and all the rest of it. And because the building was fireproof, it was built that way. The exterior classical Beaux-Art, but the interior cast concrete, brick, fireproof.
I think so. Keep my eyes open.
One more.
Oh.
Yeah, sure.
Martin, just stay back here so that we can hear you.
Yes.
Is there a way to get tours of that building?
No, I'm not aware of any tours. Well, I guess they have to have tours because they wouldn't call them tours, but if you want to see the building under the pretense that you would like to rent an apartment, then you can get in. But
I would assume that the entry is gone, but the room that you entered into should be quite remarkable.
They had a ballroom, they had a garden, they had a roof garden. The ballroom's quite lovely when you see the pictures, but how much of that's survived? Remember, now it's apartments. And of course, they're spatially minded, profit motive, all that stuff. So I don't know if that you're going to find that much original of what you're talking about. But maybe it'd be worth giving him a call.
Yeah. You have a number?
I don't. But they advertise, and it's simply called the Elks Club.
Okay.
If you go online, you'll see it, and they do have a number you could call if they want to rent those apartments. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Martin. So something a little different, a little unique that we're experimenting this year with, and so agenda permitting, we'll try to squeeze Martin in for some of these episodes, if you will. Okay, so a few announcements, and then we'll pretty much just wait for the mayor. So as you guys know, the mayor released a report on the budget where he gave the city his take on it. There were some meetings that he did ward by ward with community leaders before he started the general one that are ongoing now. And so the Ward C community meeting on the budget is March 16 at 7 p.m. at Hudson County Community College, the STEM building at 263 Academy first floor, but you have to RSVP. So if you go to jerseycitynj.gov/community meetings, all one word, you can sign up, and it's first come, first serve type of thing. So if you're interested in participating in those discussions, please visit jerseycitynj.gov/community meetings, and each ward is going to have their own sort of meeting. Ours is going to be March 16 at 7 p.m. The other announcement I put in here is for the Museum of Jersey City History, and I'm glad we have Mike Ehrman, a longtime member, who's also part of the museum's board. On March 21st, they're going to have their festival, holidays, and celebrations by immigrants from India. So it's an exhibit, and they're going to have an opening reception. This is a project that JSQCA actually partnered with a museum on, and so we're very excited for the unveiling of the exhibit, if you will. So that's going to be March 21st, 5 to 7, 298 Academy, and you have to RSVP as well at mjchistory.org. So mjchistory.org for this particular event. And then our next meeting is going to be Monday, April 13th, and that's going to be with Councilman Zupa. And that also will be a members only, similar concept where, the membership is going to have an opportunity to interact with him, ask him questions that are important to you. So that's Monday, April 13th. And obviously we're going to be marketing this, pretty much after we wrap up with the mayor this evening. So those are the major announcements. As I said, the mayor should be arriving at around 7:30. And so for now, we're kind of just wait and see, but we have a few questions. Let's start with Deborah.
Don't want to go to the Ward C. I live in the Heights, but I'm in Ward C. The Ward D meeting is March 18th, 7 o'clock at the building in the park, Bergen Field.
Bergen Field. Okay, so public announcement from Deborah. If you cannot make the Ward C community meeting that the mayor is hosting, you could go to the Ward D, which is March 18 at 7. It's the same RSVP, by the way, jerseycitynj.gov/community meetings for all of them. And then you just choose which one you want to attend. And the address is what? Okay, the Pershing Field Community Center, that's where the Ward D1 is, in case you want to attend that one. Yeah, Danielle.
Association thought about attending any planning board meetings, because there's 2 cases coming up that's involving the building that has Boulevard Drinks, as well as 3085 Kennedy Boulevard, the lot that's right next to Salon St. John and Minuteman Press. That case keeps on getting kicked down, it keeps on getting kicked down in terms of planning board meetings.
Mm-hmm.
But the building with Boulevard Drinks, apparently that case might possibly be heard tomorrow.
No.
No?
No.
No,
No, they're pushing it back. They're going to meet with our construction and planning committee on the 18th.
Oh, so we are in conversation with the planning board about it.
Not with the planning board, but with the developer.
Perfect.
Okay. I was going to say, if you wanted to come up and just project.
What is that going to grow to be? You don't know.
It's a 12-story building.
Another 12-story building?
Yes,
Yeah.
it's the same one as the one next door.
And
Uh,
But this group has a planning and everyone said construction plans.
So we do have a construction and planning committee. Chris is actually the chair. And I know that in March you had a couple of meetings with the folks, that are in the committee to discuss a few different lots.
because I am, when I do get up to the microphone, I am going to bring up 808 Phony Avenue. This overdevelopment needs to stop. That's simply what it is. So I was just wondering if we were in conversations with Jersey City and the planning board and developers and whatever, to basically make sure that we are, I guess, sat at the table, and that we make sure that we are receiving what we are asking. If that makes sense.
Sure. I know, yeah. So we have the construction and planning committee where they do discuss these projects. I don't think we have like a standing meeting with planning, but in theory, it's maybe something that we can invite them to a future meeting, if agendas align, where we can have like a more direct conversation with them. That's a possibility. Obviously, no promises being made, here.
Yeah, a big initiative that we had, in times was the push that we had to amend the redevelopment plan for the affordable housing provision.
And do not get me wrong. I'm a big supporter of affordable housing. That's great. But when we have Labor Low, Irby, Journal Square, and the other projects that are happening, there's only so much affordable housing that you can build without anything keeping the residents here. Like, I keep on hearing, myself included, a third space, a community space, a green space, to basically give back, to the community, have a place for where residents can go. So, that's where I am in terms of the beginning. All for affordable housing. Understand it. But it gets to a point where it's that you're building all this housing, well, what are you going to do to keep the residents here?
Well, thank you for voicing, your opinion. So stay tuned. I know that this is an important topic in the community, development in general. There were a couple of other hands raised. I don't know if there were other questions or comments that somebody wanted to make. No. Okay. So I've been told that the mayor is on the way. So stay tuned. Hopefully, he'll be here shortly, and then we'll sort of kick off that portion of the evening. And so for now, if there are no further comments, general comments, we could take like a brief break right now until the mayor gets here. Hello. Okay, yeah, this one works. So thank you, Mr. Mayor, for joining us for this evening. And so hopefully the folks joining us remotely, you guys are back. The mayor is very on point, 7:30 on the dot. Thank you. So we have the mayor for an hour. So as I said, for the questions, please keep intros to a minimum, go straight to the point. And that way everybody has a chance to ask their questions. Obviously, we're the JSQCA. Our mission is a cleaner, greener, safer community, right? That's what we care about. That's what we promote. That's what we spend our time doing. And so to the best of your ability, please keep your questions to the mission of the organization. And, if we have additional time, then we can sort of add other topics, but try to keep them to what we focus on, what we spend our time advocating for. And so just to kick things off, one thing that I'll say is on the green front, we all know that the community needs more green spaces. We're a ward that just lacks green space, and the Bergen Arches represents one of the very few opportunities for us to have green space. And so my question, for you, Mr. Mayor, is what steps will your administration take to ensure that the Bergen Arches becomes a reality?
Great.
And you can press the button there.
Beautiful. Look at that. First, good evening. Welcome to Journal Square. It's good to see you all. Thank you, Fritz, for hosting. Margaret, everybody, other board members of the JSQCA. I appreciate your efforts, as well as so many people that are both devote their time to make our community better, as well as just engaged citizens who are taking an hour out of their Monday evenings on the first nice evening of the year. Maybe yesterday, maybe the second nice evening of 2026 to be here. So after this ends, I hope we can all take a nice walk and enjoy the weather for at least a couple of days while we have it. So great question on Bergen Arches specifically. So I think there's a threefold process that we're going to be moving forward on and taking to try to address it. First, and you guys are seeing this, is we're bringing in our kind of a new team. And we sort of set out our first 100 days to make sure our first team was there. I can't announce it publicly, but in about a week, our infrastructure director will be made public. We're very excited for this person, and that person will be immediately tasked with leading this project. So we're going to have, that's our project point person. You're all going to know who that person is in about a week. And we're going to ask them to then take the next two steps, which are, first one is the state coordination. Obviously, NJ Transit and the state is going to be crucial to that. So having those initial meetings with NJ Transit, talking about the broad community vision for what we want to see there, right? I think we don't have the exact specifics, but obviously, no to the highway that had been proposed a couple of years ago. And yes, the kind of open space and agreement. And then the last is to do the community work. So make sure that we're partnering. Your sound. Three steps that we're taking, give the project lead, and have the project lead then do the combination of the state work and the community work together. We know how important that green space is.
I was hoping that we could make some news tonight, but we're gonna have to wait, unfortunately. I'm gonna ask one more, and then we'll turn it over to the crowd. For those of you joining via Zoom, you can you can type your questions in the chat, and then for those here, I will ask Deborah to go first, but then folks to line up so we can have some order. But Deborah, you'll go first. So on my end, Mr. Mayor, we know that you recently reinstated the Traffic Enforcement Division. That's an announcement that you made. You have a commitment. Yeah. Condition 0, and I think all the members know where I'm going here. Safety. Pedestrian safety is something that we all care about. Kennedy, Civ, Summit. It's problematic. And so, what specific improvements will your administration advocate for Journal Square in order to promote safer streets for pedestrians?
Sure. Great question. And again, I think I'll lead on the team here on a couple fronts, but obviously that infrastructure director, same person, going to be their core responsibility. Have them meet obviously with Councilman Zupa, meet with the neighborhood, work through our list. In the first sort of 6 months, we are putting together a list of kind of quick build intersections. So intersections that are particularly dangerous, that haven't seen safety treatments, and moving forward on those. So that is sort of coming in the next couple of weeks to month of saying, these are the top intersections that we think we can do a quick build on. That's the paint, the bollards, really make the intersections safer. And then we're looking at the longer term projects. You know, during the campaign, I promised that we'd look at Summit and Baldwin. We were going to have that long conversation and discussion. So that's a commitment. So we're going to do it the right way, have community input, community process, but we are going to look at different proposals there. Obviously, the main one that folks know about is one way in each direction, looking at intersection improvements as well. So those are there. I also know with NJTPA, there's a project in Oakland and St. Paul's. I don't know if JSQCA, where is your northern border? Is it 139 or do you take all of?
Union City.
Why did you come in here? All right, so this is that side of your.
Where you're talking is Lower Heights.
Yeah, I know, yes, it's certain. So it's 139, it's not technically for this neighborhood association, but you have allowed interlopers into your space, so we will speak to that as well. And so we are, they've asked us, I believe we have to rebid that project due to some federal issues, so that's immediately gonna get rebid. Also looking at Oakland and St. Paul's as well.
Great. Deborah, the first question is to you. So
Sorry, I have a bus to catch.
That's all.
Oh, well.
press the button and I should turn green.
No, still red.
There you go.
Not good with these things. Okay.
This one's here.
Green. Does she have to keep her finger on it?
No.
All right.
Very good.
All right. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, but
I
my.
think it's no.
Here, use this one.
Okay.
I'll take that.
Might just turn it off. I don't have to hold it, right?
You can just.
Good evening, Mr.
Good evening,
Mayor.
Deborah.
Other than the two items you mentioned on the Brian Lehrer show
Yes.
with regards to taking care of the budget deficit,
Sure.
can you give us briefly some other things that you're going to do? And do you anticipate a tax increase? I'm not asking you how much, but I need to know so I can start preparing
Yeah, of course.
now.
Of course.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
So I appreciate the question and I'll give the sort of 2-minute overview of the budget issue. I think probably most folks here are familiar with it, but just in case we're not. So during the campaign, every candidate, all of us talked about knowing that the budget situation was in bad shape, walking into a tough situation, needing to clean house. We've been on a whole plan in June where we laid out the need to just totally revamp the way our budgeting process worked. Even with that said, we didn't realize how bad it was until we got it. In particular, healthcare. There's $100 million in additional healthcare costs that have been unaccounted for. And unfortunately, we think some of it's kind of deceptively and intentionally hidden, intentionally under budgeted. So that the full scope of the city's budget challenges wasn't known. That actually puts us in a massive deficit. We projected 2026 deficit of $254 million, 28% of our operating budget, one of the largest in the whole country. So a major, major problem. So how do you address it? So what Deborah's talking about is what are some of the options? And there's sort of immediate, what do you know immediately, and then short to medium term after that. So a couple of things that we're looking at. The first thing and most important one is partnering with the state. You can't get through a deficit this size without the state's support. To just give you context, I could lay off every single civilian employee of the city, and that wouldn't get me to about half of the budget deficit. I could lay off every police officer and every firefighter in Jersey City, and their combined salaries would get me to the full budget deficit. So just to give you a sense of the size and the scope. So we have that big of a problem. We need the state. So job number one for me has been trying to work with the state and getting aid. We've met with the governor's team, the legislature. It's going to be an ongoing process. We will know end of June exactly probably how much we're getting until the state budget is passed, so June 30th. So we're going to be in a little bit of a holding period until June 30th, so we know exactly what the state is offering us and providing us. But we're making, I think, 2 crucial points to the state, points for everyone to know. The first is that Jersey City's growth is extremely beneficial to the state. We have added literally at this point, tens of millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars in income tax revenue because of the growth of Jersey City and sales tax revenue. And so the state's structural budget deficit will be harmed if Jersey City growth does not continue. And the second thing is Jersey City can get back onto its own 2 feet quick, right? We only need massive state aid this year, and then maybe a little bit the next couple of years, and then we'll be back to stability. So we're making it clear that this is not a long-term engagement. Our underlying economy is strong. So that's job number one. Job number two then is kind of efficiencies and cuts in city government. We think there are efficiencies and cuts in city government, but we are trying not to look at mass layoffs and not look at like furloughs as a last resort. So we're looking at how do you not fill vacancies? How do you limit the cost of spending? How do you eliminate, contracts and programs that will maybe provide important services are not the essential ones because we have to spend within our means. So we are looking at a process by which we are going to be spending less on salary and wages each year, less on our contracts each year. The issue is obviously we're already in our budget year, so we're going to be able to get some of those changes this year. Then you look at additional revenue. There's, I think, a lot of good ideas for us to get additional revenue. First and foremost, you mentioned the traffic unit. We think the traffic unit can get significantly more revenue than it does. That's obviously not the goal. The goal is for it to make our streets safe. We will never give someone a quota, but certainly we know that more revenue can be found there. Just to give you an example, Hoboken, obviously much smaller, gets over $20 million annually in parking revenue. So the broad amount, we get less than $5 million. So there's a lot of room to go, and we think that could make us safer. We've also looked at a ton of better enforcement. Enforcing slumlords, enforcing trash, enforcing the rules of the city that aren't followed, and we think that can lead to significantly more revenue as well. Again, challenge with that is, we're already in the middle of our budget year. So we're going to put in place these new policies, start getting more revenue, but we can't really count on it for this year. So technical terms of budgeting doesn't let us do that. So we can get more revenue, but it's going to be a process really for next year. And the last is the property taxes. I think we had promised during the corporate committee campaign was, try to stabilize them. It was never no increase because good budgeting is you're out of the rate of inflation. Because of the incredibly difficult budget situation we're in, people can anticipate that we'll propose a property tax increase. We're doing everything in our can to limit the extent of it because we know property taxes, the tax levy has gone up 79% in 5 years. It's an extraordinary increase. So we know how tough that's been on families and seniors, but we also have to close this budget deficit and get us to spend within our means. So it's going to be a mix of all of that, just given the size and scope of the deficit. I'll give you some context.
How to follow up on this, man? You have to go.
There's a
You guys
hand
start
up.
lining up now for your questions.
Lining up, all right.
There's a hand up on Zoom.
Okay.
I just to follow up on this. So, sorry, you had blamed the previous administration for the deficit. Is there any kind of consequences, investigations that we're talking about? Or you just walk away and you say, I'm sorry, I have that. I'm ready to go.
Sure. So I think there's a couple different pieces to that question of consequence. First, I had to focus my comments on the previous mayor board. And the reason I do that is because I think as mayor, your job is to take responsibility. So if, a budget director didn't do what they were supposed to do, yes, that's not good for the budget director, but ultimately the mayor's the person who appointed them. The mayor's the person who put them in charge. And I do think that we should focus on the person responsible. Ultimately was the mayor. He's the one who made every decision, signed out on every appointment and hiring. That's the first thing. Second thing is we did make sure to change the leadership in all the key places that really affect the budget. So we have a new finance director. We have a new CFO. We brought in an outside budget team to help us on our financing. So we have an entirely new finance team designing and improving our budgets. And the part is, the primary budget team wasn't good enough. The last becomes sort of investigations beyond that. From my perspective, the report that I put out at the beginning of February, that's my investigation, right? That's what I can say to folks. My job, what I think folks voted for me to do, is to come up with the solutions now. Explain what the problem is, explain the bad choices, and come up with the solutions. But this is a but. I think it would be welcome if those whose jobs it is to investigate. And we have different entities. So just to give you one example, there's an office of the state comptroller. The state comptroller's job is to investigate waste, fraud, and abuse. There is a new acting state comptroller. We would welcome that office launching an investigation, using its investigatory resources to come to Jersey City. We'll open every book, we'll open every piece of information possible because we think that helps create transparency so that it doesn't happen again. Those are the folks that have those investigatory resources versus us, who our job right now is to focus on getting basically the problem solved and coming with solutions.
But it's still a hypothetical situation. It's not happening.
Correct. They haven't told us. Sometimes people start investigations without telling you anything, but yes, correct. We are not aware of any investigation at this point from any state entity, but we welcome it.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah.
Those joining remotely, I have things that I focus on the chat. If you can type it in there, that'll be easiest because I can just read it. I don't know if your audio is going to be, loud enough for us. Danielle, you're up next.
Good evening. Stepping away from the budget question, I'd like to ask about 808 Pavonia Avenue. With the number of residential developments already built in Journal Square and several more currently underway or approved, the neighborhood is experiencing a significant increase in density. At the same time, residents have been consistently asking for more public space, third spaces, and green space where the community can gather. Given that context, does 808 Bergen Avenue necessarily have to be developed as affordable housing? Or has the city considered whether this site could instead serve as a public community space or green space to help balance the intense residential growth already occurring in Journal Square?
Thank you, Danielle. So on 808 Pavonia, again, I'll just give the quick context to make folks know, right? That is the site of what had initially been pitched as the Pompidou Museum. And a developer there had been granted a tax break, a tax abatement to build a museum. Obviously, we campaigned, and one of the promises was to end the Pompidou project, primarily because it was just financially unfeasible. Obviously, we have this massive budget deficit. We have to immediately start taking steps to stop any spending that's unnecessary. And just to give you an example, we had basically, had we not taken immediate action, there was about $40 million of money from the JCRA that was about to be spent on the project. So it's $40 million back to the people of Jersey City that we could spend on more sustainable projects. So the question becomes, what do you do with the space? I believe, affordability and the lack of affordable housing is the single, biggest issue facing the city, and it's one that needs urgent action. So we went to the developer KRE and said, we would like to, we can't change your abatement, that's set in stone in terms of what it looks like, but can we transfer, instead of you giving us this 885,000 square foot white box or black box, can we move the core of that benefit to affordable housing? To their credit, they were very amenable, they agreed to do it. But we did say, and I should give credit, Councilman Zupa has been very, very vocal on this, saying, look, can we also have some sort of community space either in that building or in a neighboring building? And so we have it, we've said yes, absolutely. So right now we're in the middle of the conversation with KRE to determine first, how much affordable, because there's a negotiation right now that's back and forth between us and them, how much. Can they provide a significant community space either there or on another site? And then if they do that, what does that space look like? And we want to work very closely with the councilman to determine that vision for that space. So, obviously there's different models and options I think that you could come up with for what a third community space looks like. Is it a gym? Is it classrooms? Is it both? Is it, more of a rec center? Is it part space? I think there's a lot of options. And so we want, him to sort of take the lead, and then ultimately we'll have a final negotiated agreement, which is this much affordable housing, this community space at this location.
Perfect.
Right.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to take one from the chat right now. This is from our longtime supporters, Mayor Solomon. Thanks for taking the community, talking about the community consultation earlier. You have emphasized new ways of working. Why was the JSQCA not consulted on how the Pavonia abatement project should be used? Our community wasn't consulted about Pompidou, the latest use of the Pathside building, and now it appears that we may not be consulted in future sort of, projects such as 808. Will you please commit to not moving forward on major projects in our neighborhood without consulting JSQCA?
Yes, absolutely understand Suma's concerns here, and I think hopefully can kind of address them and speak to where we're at with it. So, obviously, I felt in terms of this was first that we had to kind of immediately move on canceling the Pompidou to save the city money. It was a core campaign promise, so felt comfortable about that, and feel very comfortable that affordability and affordable housing is, a core promise that I have to deliver. And in terms of timing, we had to cancel the project, so we wanted to make it clear that we were moving forward on that quickly. But we knew that this mix between affordable housing and community space was going to be determined in the future. So we were obviously in the press release trying to be clear and say, hey, look, we are moving forward with this vision. No Pompidou, affordable housing and some community space, but the details are yet to be determined. And that's what we're going to partner very closely with JSQCA as well as broader Journal Square community to see what they want to look like in that and work very closely with the councilman as sort of someone who obviously, earned the voters' trust in this district as sort of a voice for the people. So hopefully that will lead us forward to a place where we are working very closely with the community. But the very broad parameter which we announced is something I felt like, hey, this is what I campaigned on. This is what I promised folks and the broad parameters we're kind of comfortable moving forward on.
Hello. Question or was, have so many issues, particularly in this neighborhood, concerning what many people feel is overdeveloped. So many high rises going up in such a compacted area. The traffic has increased year. I've been living in this neighborhood about 30 years. Traffic keeps getting worse and worse and worse. It's a conundrum because we do want more affordable housing. We have to build more to do that. So I'm just wondering, how do you address these tensions which pull at each other? In essence, traffic, overdevelopment in one region. Yet we do need affordable housing. We want to keep businesses and people who lived here for a long time.
Absolutely. Thanks, Ray. It's a great question because it is, as you said, a conundrum, and there's no easy answers to it. I think there's a couple things that matter to me as I think through that dilemma. The first is, yes, to get affordable homes, you need development. They don't appear, they have to be built, and all of those have to be built through market rate construction. So the first thing is, how can we ensure more affordable homes are built as there is market rate construction going? So that's the first step. And the steps are to ask our planning department, our JCRA, to look at where do we have options and abilities to get more affordable homes built and what is zoned or what is coming. So they are being asked to do that. Obviously, your neighborhood association worked very closely on an initial amendment to get more affordable housing in the Journal Square 2060 plan, and I think there's more to do on that front. The second thing is, where we have all this congestion, are there things we can do to, not have to kind of have a zero-sum choice, but ways that we can encourage, I think more positive ways, so more positive transportation methods to deal with the construction and the congestion, So obviously, PATH has announced a big investment in their trains in 2026. I think that will help significantly. I've always been a supporter of bicycle infrastructure because more people on bikes, fewer people on cars, less roadway congestion on that front. And then can the development address some of those issues? Obviously, the two biggest sort of outside affordable housing and transit are, I think, schools and open space. So can we make sure that the development is actually bringing those benefits? So they're bringing new school space and new open space to address some of those changes. And then I think we can. It's going to be looking at, sometimes it's project by project, sometimes it's plan by plan. And then you are a balance, right? And I've always sort of promised to sort of listen to each project and be in that space where we're trying to balance these different issues. There's a project downtown I'm opposing because I don't think it strikes that balance right. I think it is way too much development, significantly more dense than every high rise in the neighborhood. Right? To me, that you're not striking the balance between these things correctly in that project. Or with other projects, I think do strike the balance. So the project a block away, 2 blocks away. That's a very significant project, but it's bringing green space and affordable housing. And I think that strikes the balance appropriately. And so that's always sort of how I'm going to analyze them and give you a sense of just looking through each project by project.
Mary.
Hi, good evening, Mary Braglia. Everybody's welcome. I'm glad to see everyone here. So my major concern is, I had this concern before. Journal Square has been left out for so long. There has been no money spent here for the last 12 years. It was just sort of thrown over to the developers, like other neighborhoods had new schools, new parks, new senior center, new community center. We had none of that. We have no community meeting space in this area. We're lucky that the college sort of. What?
Thank you, Hudson County Community College. Thank you.
Lucky that the college sort of adopted us, but if I was to start a small organization, where it would be me? Probably in private buildings. And some of the things we need are trees, traffic management, public meeting space, cleaner streets, parking, affordable housing, housing preservation, and enforcement of every kind. Every kind. I work with 2 different branches of enforcement, and there just aren't enough inspectors. There aren't enough people to do what needs to be done. So what I want to know is, how are we going to get the things we need in the light of this?
Yeah. So it's a great question. So I do believe that there's a lot that can be done through significantly improved government services by bringing in the right team and delivering just significantly more efficient services. So just to give you an example, we'll talk about our snow plowing operations in the first little bit. Obviously, the first storm, we really struggled. There were a lot that was broken. And then within a month, we had a blizzard that was twice the size, and I think we did significantly better in terms of how we plowed the city. And that was because we spent a month basically being like, this system is broken. It does not work. How are we going to fix it? And we came up with some basic operational things, nothing crazy, but how do you shift employees over a very long distance storm? How do you maximize the amount of equipment that's out? How do you track the equipment that you have out to see if they're actually doing what they're supposed to be doing and plowing the streets and identifying streets that they've missed? Basic stuff. Obviously, a lot to still get better. But that's an example of taking a government service, spending a little bit of time and significantly improving it without having to throw massive resources into it. I think we can do that across the board. You look at our tree planting operations. How can we significantly improve those? How can we also maximize grants? Small thing, but it does matter. The prior administration, for reasons I don't know and understand, did not submit requests to our Congress people for federal money. So each congressperson has a system. They send out an email to every mayor. I got mine a month ago. Said, what are your requests for funding? We just put our requests together. We put them out to our Congress. We don't know if we're going to get them, but it's part of the system. A simple thing to do is request money for tree planting, which we did in part in one of our applications, so that we can get more money and resources there. You will be happy to know I did put in Courthouse Square Park as one of our requests for our Congress people. So we will fingers crossed to help deliver it for us, but we did want to prioritize that because we know how important the green space is in the neighborhood. So I do think we're going to be able to deliver significantly better government services that you'll get to see over time. Enforcement being a key one, right? It's one where performance management systems, key performance indicators, a little bit of oversight and less silos in government people will start to see a lot of enforcement. It's not going to happen overnight. We got to build our team out and then start putting in those performance management systems, but it will happen, and I think people will see it and feel it. So that's the short answer. And then we're going to be very cognizant of where we can't really cut, right? We know that we have a lot of challenges in front of us. It's not going to be easy to get through the budget crisis, but we know that a lot of services aren't where they need to be already.
Thank you. And just before we get to Kevin, so Bill Armbruster, longtime JSQCA supporter, thank you, Bill, actually put in a question, as you mentioned, Courthouse Park. He basically was asking, how we're going to move forward with that project and with the fiscal constraints. So it's great that that request was put in. I don't know if there's anything else I can add to that.
I don't have a ton in terms of status updates from what I think probably folks know, but just as folks of the city had contracted with an engineering firm that is analyzing the removal of the county building. So we are waiting for that to come back to us. How expensive is that going to be? What does that look like? And then there is a certain amount of money set aside. I don't want to give the exact number now, but we can give an exact number for the removal of the building. Well, the money that had not been set aside, that is the park construction. So obviously we need to make sure the money set aside covers the demolition of the county building, the asbestos, all of those things. And then we are actively working on the plan to get the money for the construction of the park. So that is the current status update.
Great, thank you.
I have a follow-up.
So sorry, just because we have other folks.
I actually have a follow-up for it, so I'm probably going to ask your question if that helps.
On Courthouse Park.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
All right. So, Mayor Solomon, good to see you. Thank you for coming. We hope that you make this a annual, monthly, not tradition. Definitely annual.
Breaking news, annual.
Definitely annual.
We got the annual.
But I'm just following in Bill's footsteps. He would get on the spot about that too. So a lot of times we have elected officials here, I find one of the most valuable things is that you have access to a lot more knowledge about the operations of the city than we do. Love to ask you about KPIs, but I want to take a hard hat tour of Journal Square and the surrounding area. So if you could give us a bit more of an update, I don't know what your follow-up was about Courthouse Park, the Pathside building. I know there's been some recent developments. If you could give us some background on that. Lowe's Theater.
Sure.
When do we plan on seeing it open? And maybe a little bit outside our boundaries, but Christ Hospital, if there are any updates or things about that.
Sure. Okay. I'll go through each of them. So first, I'll start with Lowe's. Lowe's, I think, very clear timeline. So we expect the Lowe's to be open September, October of this year. So it is moving forward. It is on a track. And then I think for folks to know, there's a sort of agreement where The Lowe's is going to be managed by, I think it's called Harris Blitzer Sports Group. They're connected to the Devils, but they had signed a contract. It's a very long term. It's like a 60-year contract. They're managing the bookings, the events, but then the city gets basically 55 community days, and then I think we get 4 entertainment days, which we can book whoever we want, and the proceeds we get help fund the community days. We are still in the process of determining exactly how we're going to distribute those days, who's deciding. We're trying to work very closely with the Friends of the Lowe's on that as well as we determine our planning and processes on that front. So moving forward, we're in the process of figuring out these community days and how we're going to determine that moving forward, working with Friends of the Lowe's. So that's the first one. Forest Park, they gave the update. I don't have a ton more information than that. Waiting for that engineering firm to get us all the details on what it looks like to demolish that building. And then that will then be the choice point of, do we have the funds to make the demolition? If so, yes, great, we're moving forward. If not, we'll need to figure out how we get more funds and then continue the planning process so we're ready to go once the building is done on the actual construction of the park. You mentioned the pass side. I don't have a ton of information on the pass side. We can, on my team, we can get you guys more information. I have not been briefed on that since I started, so maybe we'll make sure I get briefed on it and I can give you outside information where that stands. And then last was Christ Hospital. So with Christ Hospital, I think folks know, but again, the current operators, HRH, Hudson Regional Hospital, they purchased the hospital out of bankruptcy from CarePoint about a year ago. When they did that, they promised that they had the resources and a plan to turn the hospital back into a fully functioning entity. Last fall, they kind of reversed course pretty abruptly, announced the closure of the hospital except the emergency room. They did not follow, there's a state law that mandates how you are allowed to close a hospital. They just blatantly ignored it. The state law is extremely weak in its actual penalties. So, thing we're asking state legislators to fix. At the time, they said we're going to keep the emergency room open. The state was forcing them to do that. They then announced 2 weeks ago that they're closing the emergency room, and it's going to be closed this Friday. We are still in active conversations with the state to basically say we believe the state can file an injunction to force them to keep it open. So at a minimum, force them to go through what's called, I think, certificate of need process, CN process that determines the closure. We think the state can do it. Unfortunately, our law department has said we don't have standing to do it because it's enforcing the state law. So it has to be the state attorney general commissioner. Our position is the emergency room should not close. We need an emergency room. It's an important care access point. And if HRH is choosing to close it, not following the legal process, the state needs to enforce its own laws. So the message to Governor Sherrill and to Commissioner, our new DOH commissioner is, if they choose to move forward on closing, you should file the injunction. Go to court, prevent them from doing it. So that's our message. We're hopeful that they're going to file the injunction. The next process is, if they do try to move forward with closure, we have started conversations with other healthcare entities around what could you come in, how quickly could you do it, where would it go? So, it's not going to be immediate. We're not going to be able to immediately go, hey, they're taking over the emergency room. But I think we are very committed to looking for new operators to open a acute care facility, some combination of emergency department and hospital beds, in Ward C and D, somewhere in those 2 areas, because that's obviously where we need access to care. So that's like our hospital update.
Do you want to ask the one online first?
Excuse me?
Did you want to ask the?
No, I just want to comment. Samin just want to comment. And Samin, I'll follow up with the mayor's team on pass side when they briefed the mayor on it, and we'll share whatever communication we're given. So rest assured, pass side is on our agenda to follow up. But we're going to go through time.
First, just a really quick clarification. You mentioned for 808 Begonia that Carrie has committed to a community space in the building or another building. Is that other building in Ward C, or is that?
No, it's a building.
No, I know that it's one of
Yes, it's looking at the sites that they have in Ward C in Journal Square, right? It wouldn't be on the west side by Community Hall, right? It's really for the Journal Square neighborhood.
Okay. So then going back to the budget and enforcement. As recently as this morning when I was crossing Kennedy, I saw a car making an illegal U-turn at Kennedy and Bergen. A cop in front of a cop who put on his lights and sirens and then just let the car drive off. I know There's one quality of life inspector who I'm happy to name, is Osman Ghani, who is known in Ward C for warning businesses when people file complaints so that they can quickly clean up. And then he comes and he says he inspects. Did it during snow cleanup, and it was a persistent issue during the first storm, where inspectors said that they came and inspected and that there was no pause. And then they closed the ticket, and I had it happen for 10 tickets that I filed, where I came back and 24 hours later, and the snow had not been cleared. I mean, that's revenue that the city could be bringing in from traffic violations, from quality of life violations, from businesses blatantly violating zoning rules in our city, by blocking more than 25% of their windows. Why are we not looking at holding those city employees accountable first, when not only are they shifting the burden onto taxpayers by not issuing fines, but they're being paid by the taxpayers, saying that they're going and doing a job, and then with Osman Ghani specifically, it was the intersection of Kennedy and Begonia. He said he went out and inspected, and people piled on that there was no possible way. And then 2 days later, he said, okay, I'll go out and inspect. So he's saying he inspected, 48 hours later is saying, oh, I'll go and do it.
Okay. It's a great question, right? Because the frustration is real and it's right, because we have a terrible budget deficit. We have, the prospect of a lot of, difficult decisions and pain. And if the city is leaving low-hanging fruit off, it's just a bad situation. So, really, so a couple specific points. So on the specific person you mentioned, we are happy to send you specific information and kind of, do the appropriate HR investigation, right? If there's any accusation of, misconduct, inappropriate behavior, I'm thinking we're on the gamut from somebody who isn't doing what they're supposed to do on the job to somebody who's not inspecting or is being dishonest. We want to know that, and we want to launch an investigation. So we will immediately kind of send you the information. We'll start and make sure that HR immediately begins the process of investigation. Looking forward at it. I would just add, from a holistic how do you make city government work better process, we also know that we have to rebuild our HR function in the city. There's you don't really campaign on rebuilding HR functions, but like the HR function just isn't where it needs to be. So there can be a lot of investment on our part in making HR just a significantly better run and working system. And then more broadly on the enforcement, agreed. So we did 6 community meetings on the budget with sort of small set of people, and now we're doing 6 meetings fully open to the public. Every meeting that I've talked to, kind of the number one thing has been enforcement. It's like, why do you now want to get revenue from enforcement? And so 100%. So on the traffic enforcement was a day one thing, create the traffic enforcement division. This should be up and operationally April to May timeframe. Officers have already applied to join it. They're working through the leadership and the procedures. And then we are creating a sort of, Concept really wasn't a thing in our police department, so we're creating a version of Concept called JC Impact. So obviously with the traffic enforcement division, that's going to be one of the things that they're on top of. And then similarly on the civilian enforcement side, we're tasking our business administrator and code compliance and all the people to have, regular monthly metrics on what they're doing. That ultimately, when we create our city stat system, they'll be helped, accountable for. We'll have regular meetings to bring them forward. So I appreciate your question because it's 100% on point. On the specifics, we'll move forward, and then we're working on the system that we have to put in place to actually fix it.
And if we just add, the JSQCA Clean Committee does have a list of problematic properties.
Okay, that'd be great. Actually, for us to have, because if you have that list already, then we can focus enforcement on, the problematic properties. And one just last point, the city system for, there are city tools to pressure owners who have properties that are vacant and abandoned. Hasn't really been utilized, so that is one of our to-do lists, is to make just a much more streamlined process so that can move much more quickly.
Great, thank you. We'll follow up on that. I believe you were also on. Oh, no? Okay. So just time check, we have 20 minutes. And so going forward, there's one in the queue that I'm going to get after you, Chris. Just keep the intros to a minimum, just because we have 20 minutes left. Thank you. Chris.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Long time listener or something. So, for years, a lot of issues kind of involve agencies outside the city's jurisdiction, and in particular state. So looking at Route 139, state DOT, New Jersey Transit runs a lot of our, bus, light rail, things like that. So kind of encouraged by New Jersey Transit's cooperation with Bergen Arches and new administration at city and state levels. Is there any, kind of change in the barometer when it comes to things like improving bus service and light rail service? And can I get your take on that?
Yeah, that's, I appreciate it, Chris. We are very hopeful, although there hasn't been maybe as many concrete things, but the new head of Engine Transit, who was the old head, but he was there not for long as it was Chris Kaluri. The really good thing is he's also head of the Turnpike Authority. So the Governor Cheryl sort of created a more regional transit approach, which we think is very smart. And the very first thing he did was cancel the Turnpike widening project, which is something a lot of us have been fighting very hard to get them to do. So we're grateful to Governor Cheryl. So that's I don't know if it's director or commissioner Collery, I don't know his exact title. So we're very hopeful just on that step that he's been super willing to work with us. We've already started conversations with them about, they have a couple of their parking lots, their commuter parking lots that they're looking to build sort of mixed income, affordable, market rate retail on, and we started those conversations. And then we are starting those conversations on bus and light rail. So there haven't been any initial commitments on bus and light rail, but just the initial signs are very hopeful and very positive that we have someone who's very leaders at that division who are very invested. So we have some new ongoing conversations going to be set up soon, but we're signs are good so far.
Great. I'm going to take the next one here from the folks on Zoom.
Yeah.
This is about supermarkets. Jersey City's lacking supermarkets. What are the developers' submissions about this issue? I wish we could see a Whole Foods, for example, in Journal Square.
It's a great great question, and obviously it is not a supermarket, but the Target will be opening in the new I think Journal Square building. So I'm providing some access to fresh produce in the neighborhood. Basically, the way it works is it's sometimes developers just will do it because they have the space and they think it's good and they'll go forward. Other times, we can kind of say this is a community benefit that we are interested in. So as you are building out your space or you're negotiating with the city, we would like you to prioritize bringing a supermarket into the neighborhood. I have not yet had any of those conversations with developers, particularly Journal Square, yet about that option and that prospect, but knowing that it's a neighborhood need, I'm happy to make sure that both me and our planning staff and JCRA know that that is a top thing for us to be asking and pushing for as new projects come into the neighborhood.
Perfect. We have about 17 minutes. So again, keep your intros to a minimum. Please over.
First, Mayor, thank you for your time.
Of course, thank you.
On the supermarket issue, we do have that abandoned Rite Aid at West Side Avenue.
Yeah.
And it's a question for Tom. We just want to get an update on that because that was supposed to be a grocery store. My question is on revenue. Have you considered congested pricing for vehicles that are just coming down?
So it's a great question. We'll follow up with the Rite Aid at Caitlin from my team as our chief of operations. So we'll get you an update on where the Rite Aid stands. And then on the controversy, we would love to do basically our version of commuter pricing, right? Where we would toll somebody getting off the turnpike and using our streets to go to the Holland Tunnel. We would need the state authorization for that. We can't just do it as much as I wish we could. But I do think that what you did see for congestion pricing in New York was it took a long time, but ultimately you had to start with putting the idea out. So it is on our to-do list of us kind of forcefully saying this is a good idea. The other thing that we are doing is we're creating a list of revenue raising ideas that we need state authorization for. So if the state comes back to us and says, well, we're not going to give you X in aid, we can say, well, give us the ability to raise that revenue ourselves. So that will be on our list of things. Obviously, for us to implement it would take some time. There's a bunch of federal DOT rules that you have to go through. So that wouldn't be as easy as just doing it immediately, but it will be one of the things we do bring up to the state and we start publicly advocating for, ultimately trying to get, whether it's in 1 year or 5 years, the state to authorize us to do it.
And just on that last point that the mayor made, I was so happy when we went to the community leaders budget meetings. We had that round discussion on revenue generating ideas, and everybody that got very creative. And so I'm not sure if that's part of the community budget series meetings that you're having now, but if you can attend, do in case they also have that portion because it is got pretty creative.
Yes.
So yeah, yeah.
Great. Well, thank you very much for coming. We certainly all appreciate it, that's for sure. This is outside the scope of Journal Square. What's the status of that science tech with Liberty State Park? We're full of jammed down our throats, and it was probably one of the largest transfers of wealth from the public sector to private.
Yes.
And all I've seen looks like another apartment building.
Sure.
And how much are we committed to cough up on that?
Sure, got it. All right, thank you, ma'am. So again, so everyone's on the same page. The land across the street from the Liberty Science Center was transferred by the JSQCA to a sort of nonprofit that's basically run through the Science Center, but it's called SciTech City. There were three components of SciTech City. There was what's called Scholars Village, which is basically market rate housing. There was Edgeworks, which was going to basically be a small business site incubator. And then there was Liberty High School, which is going to be a STEM-focused magnet school run by the Hudson County Schools of Technology. So those are the three components. Something that I was critical of was that the market rate Scholars Village sort of just moved first, right? And that's the land was transferred in 2017. 8 years later, the only thing we saw was the sort of market rate units that didn't provide any community benefit. I thought the community benefit should have, been at a minimum in conjunction at the same time as that. Those are to be built, they'll be open, I think, at some point. The Edgeworks facility, as I understand it, has finally secured the funding it needs to move forward. And so I would expect the Edgeworks facility, the business incubator, to move forward in the coming 6 months. And then you have the high school. At some point, the county was sort of going out to bond for the high school, and they've gone through a couple different iterations. But I think at this stage, both the county and the city, us, have concerns about our ability to finance something like that. So as you all know, the city was on the hook for $2 million a year in terms of just operating the school. It wasn't the city school or JSQCA school. The county followed the news. The Hudson County Schools of Technology are in a serious financial crisis as well. So I think there's an ongoing effort right now for all of us to say, wait a second, we have to live within our means. We can't spend beyond what the city has. So we have to evaluate what we can financially do. And if we can't move forward, then what is it that we are going to do? So that's sort of a quick update in the three parts of that project.
Mike.
Great to see you at work. We're working on more amendments here to expand the affordable housing. I'm getting a question now, which is what's going on in other neighborhoods with affordable so that this neighborhood doesn't have to take the whole burden?
Thank you. So some of that is going to be the systemic changes that we're going to take a little bit of time to put in place, what we want to do. But a couple of things, obviously, for folks know, obviously in the heart of Journal Square, it's now mandatory to build affordable housing through the main amendment that was done, but that doesn't cover the whole of the 2060 plan. There are a number of important affordable housing projects that we are working very hard to move forward on. Bayfront is obviously the biggest, most important one. It will sound like 5 groundbreakings, but it will actually be breaking ground now. So that is moving forward. The first stage is 500 units, but in total, we're hoping ultimately to build 8,000 units of housing there, much of which affordable. Working very closely to try to make sure the Canal Crossing project has significant affordable component. That's the big open land south of Berry Lane Park. That's a big priority for us to make sure that those units have it. And then we are looking for other areas where we can build more affordable. As of now, it's a project by project thing. There's the project at 72 Montgomery I referenced earlier. That's 15% affordable, no tax abatement. There's a project that's at Grandin Marin that's moving forward with affordable housing that does have a tax abatement. There's a couple of other ones that are all moving forward, but what we want to do is systemically look at the zoning across the city and say that, we don't want, we need affordable housing in every neighborhood, in every position, and what's the best way to do that? We are balancing that with some of the budget challenges that we've been presented with, but it is a commitment for us to move forward on getting affordable housing in every part of the city.
Any change in the IZO?
So, for us to do that, I think the IZO has to be looked at and changed and amended. So yes, we are looking at the IZO and seeing how we can amend it to make sure that the city gets affordable in every part of the city. We would just say, obviously, we want to get it right. And so our focus is making sure we do the analysis and make sure that we have the most thoughtfully designed policy to make sure that we have affordable housing in every neighborhood.
Thank you.
Just not going to steal Chris or Mike's thunder, but Namdar has presented 6 bills.
If you can turn it on, it's off.
Talk closer to the mic.
No, it was off. There we go.
Yeah.
Not to steal Chris or Mike's thunder, but Namdar's presented, I think, 6 buildings to our CAP committee in the last month. And it's probably upwards of 800 affordable units that have been proposed for any.
700.
Yeah. So definitely,
The building.
definitely a positive development. Just quickly going back to the budget of the infrastructure department. So I know that you proposed additional funding for the infrastructure department last year. In light of the budget issues, is that something that you're still pursuing, just given that it seems like some of the biggest feedback across the city is a lack of street safety and kind of a really desperate need for improvements on that. And then just one quick note, congestion pricing, it can also be for 1 and 9 and 130.
Yes.
That's just a issue.
No, agreed on all the cut through traffic. Yes, so I believe very strongly the infrastructure department doesn't have the resources it needs today. But just to give folks the context, so the entire infrastructure department, by the last year, we basically had, one licensed engineer in that department. That is not how you can function on a citywide infrastructure basis. So to change that, there's a couple things, right? We have to offer the chief engineer position more than have been offered to recruit a great chief engineer, have your municipal engineer. You have to then fund deputies to be able to do it. So there's just no way you can build a department without more resources. So yes, we're committed to that. Obviously, we may not be able to put as many in as we wanted to initially, but ultimately we'll get there. And we'll be creative too. So can we look at grant funding? Can we find ways that we can supplement some of those services to be able to get more staff there? So that's definitely a commitment to make sure we do, because we desperately need more infrastructure investment in Jersey City.
Is the transportation master plan process still?
Yes, the master plan process is ongoing, as is the Vision Zero sort of revisioning, maybe is the right phrase for it. So we have 2 ongoing consultant studies that are moving forward. One is transportation master plan, and one is revisioning of our Vision Zero plan. So they're both moving forward.
I think, George, you might be closing us out tonight, right? Quite the honors.
2 questions on 808. First one is, I think the space that we were supposed to get, I don't remember the exact numbers, was 85,000 indoor, 14,600 outdoor. If that space gets moved to another location, are you gonna make sure that we get the same amount or more space there?
No, so you're correct in your numbers. It was roughly 85K indoor, 14K outdoor. So in terms of the space piece, obviously with in essence, the sort of renegotiated agreement on affordable, the community space is not going to be that size and that big. So the part of the process of going back and forth is determining the size. So are we looking at 10,000 or 20,000 or 30,000? That's the conversation we're going to have, and that's the one that we're going to ask the councilman to work with you guys and lead on to determine the scope and size of that space. And there will be a trade-off, right? The bigger that space, we'll get fewer affordable units. And we'll just go back and forth, and ultimately we'll come to an agreement, and that'll determine the new scope of the project.
All right, 3 questions, I guess. Second one, so I would imagine there'd be another ordinance to amend that pilot then.
Correct. Once it's agreed, you have to have the ordinance, but the point is both parties have to agree to it. We couldn't unilaterally amend the pilot, and both parties have to agree to the amendment.
And then I guess my last question is on Pompidou, that was a pretty big art space.
Yes.
What are your plans, or do you have any plans for Journal Square to kind of advocate for the arts within Fort City?
Sure. I mean, the biggest proposal that I have support of and that we've talked to is with a combination of Jersey City Theater Center, I forget the name of the development group, but they have a site on Summit where they've proposed a very large scale project, mixed income, artist housing, and major theater space. They applied for cafe credits on it, which are the state art funding program. We do not know the status of the application. We can ask and find out where that stands. That's sort of the biggest proposal that I've seen in the neighborhood of significant art space, which we would love to see forward. If at some point that doesn't appear viable or more extremely into the future, happy to look at other, projects and ideas and spaces as well.
Thank you, George.
Deborah.
Deborah has to work quick. We got 5 minutes, so.
You have a bus to catch, real quick. Oh, don't worry, I'll make the bus. What is the status with the reservoir right now?
Sure.
And also, is there a way you can make zoning, the council meetings and the planning meetings, the other meetings, hybrid, where people can participate? Because in 35 years, I've been to one council meeting, they just go to law. Is there a way you could do that on a platform where people can participate if as a senior? It's just.
Yeah, absolutely agree. So on the reservoir, it is open. There's more couple things, we're trying to work on the money to repair the historic buildings there. So that's the next step. I don't believe we have the money set aside, so we're looking for where the money is, and that's our next step. There's also environmental remediation that still needs to occur under the water, so you're safe. Everyone, don't worry, like you're good. But we do need to do more environmental remediation. So actually, one of our other congressional asks was money to fund the environmental remediation that's under the water in the reservoir. So that was put to Congress, so we're hopeful on that front. And then on the meetings, we are committed to making them more accessible. It was a campaign promise, one, just to make sure that everything is live streamed and that we do incorporate a portion of a hybrid option. It may not be fully hybrid in the sense of, fully comments online versus in person. There's some sort of timing issues in planning and zoning where we need to add extra time. But we are committed to getting them all, much more accessible, adding in a portion of hybrid comment, and then having that be the standard for the city.
Thank you. You saved me for sending you the email.
Okay, there you go. Appreciate it.
There you go. So with that, actually, I'm going to just read Sameed's last comment. He is definitely in support of hybrid city council meetings. So to the extent that that's possible, please, let's get those up running. But thank you so much, Mr. Mayor, for joining us tonight. And the breaking news is that this is an annual thing. So next year, we're going to invite the mayor again for another round of questions. And so I'll just make one quick announcement. And so, Mayor, I know that you're super busy, so thank you so much again.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. We look forward to this, but I'll follow through.
All right, thank you guys, appreciate it.
Thank you. So we're pretty much going to be wrapping up. Just want to thank the folks joining in here soon. Thank you guys so much for joining us. And for those joining in person, amazing attendance. Our next meeting is with Councilman Zuba. It will be the same format. It is going to be members only. So please bring your questions. That I think is going to be the full 2 hours basically. So I look forward to that, and stay tuned for the marketing that we're going to do. So with that, we can wrap up. Have a good night.